This is Morning at NTV, and please thank you for staying with us and making us the #1 breakfast show in the country. My name is Romeo Busiku, and our next segment we are going to be taking a look at why are students failing science subjects, even though government has bankrolled most of the universal secondary of education schools, actually schools that implement USE and the schools that do not implement USE. We are talking about non-USE, USE, USC private, and non-USE private. Does that make sense, Mr. Matua?
A lot of sense.
Yes. So just last week, UNEB's Executive Secretary Dan Odongo delivered the all-level results, but the news of the day was the thunderclap that nearly half of all those candidates who wrote their physics, chemistry examinations last year failed. The daunting news didn't stop there. Educators went on to unveil that for females offering physics and chemistry, nearly 60% of those students were unable to get a pass 8. Imagine that. Now, where does the country go from here? For more on this conversation, we have Mr. Job Richard Matua from the Uganda National Science Teachers Union and also Mr. Frederick Dongo from the Association of Biology Educators. Many thanks for joining me, gentlemen. A very good morning.
Oh, good morning to you, sir.
Yes. Things are not looking so good, I must say. The results came in. You've heard from the preamble. Things are not looking good. What is the problem? The State Minister for Higher Education, that is Chrysostom Miingo, actually a couple of years ago came out to say that the problem might not be government because government is bankrolling these schools, USE or not, with enough equipment to actually increase on the level of science development in those schools. But then students are still failing. And he said the problem could be the teachers themselves. What do you make of that? Mr. Matua, I'll start with you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning, our viewers. And thank you very much for staying tuned to NTV. My brother, Mr. Romeo Busiku, I'm always glad for television NTV for championing issues of national significance.
That's what we live for.
And this is what I cherish so much.
Amazing.
That
so let's get into it.
Yes. Is the problem of poor performance of sciences teachers. This is what I want us to debate now. Yes. This is what I want us to discuss. I'll tell you that there is a number of factors that contribute to poor performance of sciences. It is not only per se teachers, and therefore allow me to deliberate on my views to that effect. One, do we need the sciences for this country to develop?
We do.
The answer is yes. Why are we not taking major steps in terms of performance of sciences? Number one, these sciences are being taught theoretically. We need to actually make these sciences taught practically by demonstrating the scientific concepts for the learners to have in-depth understanding of the concept. Two, we need exposure of the learners to the practical aspects that are examined in the curriculum. Now, when we do that, it will simplify the sciences for the learners, making it easier for them to conceptualize and to love it. That is issue one that I want to raise here. Now, for this to take place, we must build the capacity in our teachers to deliver in terms of that practical teaching. Mark you, these are the teachers who were also not taught practically this subject. Now you have a teacher who was not taught practically the subject, and you want the teacher to teach the subject practically. Then the question of how, technical know-how comes in. So there is a need for continuous in-service training to ground our teachers, to give them the exposure of how each unit could be practically demonstrated, because they were not taught in that style. So you are blaming somebody who was not taught like that and was not trained in the university like that. Then you want the person to deliver that. That is one of the mismatch in education.
So the problem is the curriculum.
The curriculum is good, but implementation of the curriculum
by the teachers
need us to assist the teachers to do so. We must not squarely blame them. That's why I'm telling you. These teachers, when they were studying as a student, they were not taught practically. And now you want them to teach practical, which is the best solution. Have we prepared them? That is one. Two, the nation must not forget that we still have few enrollment of science teachers. The worst case is in our government schools. So that if the minister alleges that the problem is the teachers, has the ministry recruited the minimum number of science teachers required in each of those schools? There are schools in Isinjiro district, there are schools in Bulambuli, there are schools in these far places where actually the science teacher's presence on the compound is not even there. So can we have the minimum number of science teachers recruited so that we can then put them to task? We can train them and deliver the subject with the clear proficiency and effectiveness. That is one issue. I want to say that it is on record. We have less than 40% of our required number of science teachers recruited in the government schools. So what does it take to have them recruited? Do we have them or we don't have them? The question is we have them. So what is stopping the recruitment of the minimum number of science teachers to actually implement the curriculum? I am very much scared with the new curriculum. If that is not done, actually according to the demand of that curriculum, if there is no recruitment of the minimum number of teachers, science teachers, we may head for a disaster.
I hear you. Mr. Dongo,
Yes,
let me
please.
just bring you into this conversation. Now, according to the abridged report, schools that implement the universal secondary education program are actually performing poorly when it comes to sciences, but those schools that do not implement universal secondary education are actually doing better. Why are there variations in performances, and what could be causing this?
Thank you very much. When you look at the reports, the abridged report you're talking about, it basically highlights three major issues. Attitude of learners, availability of teachers, and then the facilities in schools. First of all, why are schools lacking teachers or teachers being absent? The USE schools and the other government schools that up country. Why are teachers preferring to get to the central region? Motivation. Motivation is key because everybody wants to live well. Everybody wants a family that is happy. So what should we do in this case? First of all, there was a suggestion, there was an idea last year of increasing salaries of teachers. We know that salaries alone are not enough, but it was a good step. It was a step in the right direction. Motivation of staff is very key because it will keep people working. Two, the attitude. This attitude is killed by what Mr. Matua is referring to as the theoretical teaching. If kids are not involved in activities, not necessarily practicals of the laboratory, but activities in the learning process, they will not follow what you're doing. We all know, we all can drive, we all can ride bicycles. You can't learn by simply being told. So we need to involve them. The availability of resources in schools, there are schools that, well, have labs, have equipment, but there are no labs. The schools that you're referring to, the USE schools, are overpopulated. You find a class that is supposed to be ideally having about 60, say maximum, has over 150. So it becomes very difficult for teachers to take these learners through the required skills that they need to grasp the concepts of science.
Mr. Dongo, the government introduced the secondary science and mathematics teachers program to help the to help inculcate a new methodological style of teaching in the science teachers. But then the same Ministry of Education says the teachers are not actually taking on what they're being taught from the SESEMAT program to inculcate the same to the students. The Ministry of Education says the teachers are still actually using the same style of teaching to educate their students, not the SESEMAT strategy.
There are two issues here. One, the examining has not changed so much towards what SESMAT is implementing. SESMAT has encouraged practical teaching, but the examining is based more on theory. So what people are doing, because everybody wants grades, they want to use methods, they want the methodology that will bring out the grades. The curriculum itself, the old curriculum has been still packed with a lot of unnecessary content. So that makes it difficult for people to implement the SESMAT program given the time that is available. But also, we need to understand that SESMAT, well, it came around 2005, it has stayed around. By now we should be having better results, I think, than what we are having. But then, SESMAT is based on, does not seem to cater for the interests of the teachers in the respective regions, wherever they are.
What are those interests of the teachers that SESMAT is not addressing?
At the moment, based on the current assessments methods by Uganda National Examinations Board, there has been a lot of issues with examining skills. And SESMAT has based more on enabling teachers gain skills of teaching. If you move across the country in different schools, every region has its own unique set of conditions, of challenges, in terms of local materials available, in terms of the nature of the learners they have. But SESMAT program is rolled from the top and then taken down. That's why the biology educators and other subject-based groupings have come up at regional levels to try to listen to teachers and address their challenges in that particular region or in that particular season. Yes.
Mr. Matua, do you think, before you get into the SESMAT conversation, I think Mr. Dongo has exhausted all that, but then let's get into another issue, the issue of the practicals that are being introduced at Senior 3. Do you think practicals should be introduced at Senior 1 to give students more time to learn what is being taught?
Yeah, thank you very much, my brother, Romeo Busiku. Actually, before I could look at that, I want to chip in briefly on the issue of SESMAT.
I knew you would, but go ahead. But don't forget the issue of the practical.
Yes. Actually, the ideal SESMAT was to cater for is the practical teaching of sciences by demonstration, by use of the resources in the environment, and the facility in the laboratory.
So why are the teachers reverting to the old style of teaching? Yes, they know this is the best way to inculcate practical skills into their students.
I want to answer you by saying that there was curriculum overload.
Go ahead.
A lot of content to be taught within a minimum period. That if you got the SESMAT way, you will not finish the syllabus. National examination will examine the entire syllabus. So it is you make a bet of what to take. If you want to finish the syllabus, then you have to jump some stages of SESMAT. So the curriculum was bulky, and even still is bulky because we have not started the new curriculum. Then the issue of practicals in Senior 3. That is the most unfortunate bit of it, my brother, Mr. Romeo Busiku. But what is the cause of it? The teacher, or the teachers themselves, we also taught the practicals late. In fact, for them, some even had the practicals 2 weeks to UNEB. Their schools where practicals are taught 2 weeks to UNEB. Even there are those that first wait for the advanced information from UNEB, then begin to fidget around to teach the practicals. The ideal is that from the word go, the subject should be taught practically. If you're going to tell the students you're going to teach apparatus in the laboratory, bring the apparatus, let them have a touch on it, let them use it. Say, this is a measuring cylinder. What is the use of it? Can we have the students measure water using that measuring cylinder? That is the practical. That is the demonstration. So I therefore want to say that why are our teachers not teaching the practicals early? That becomes an issue that UNEB is identifying. It is because of the weak systems we have in the school. What are the administrators doing at school? Do they know what they are doing? And one of the problems, I raised it earlier, that majority of our administrators in schools are not in the science field. So you have a head teacher, a deputy, those who are all teachers of humanities. They don't have any technical expertise to supervise this person in science. In any case, they fear most of the science teachers. I don't know the reason for which they fear them. So how do you know that a person, teacher A, is teaching the practical well or is not teaching the practical well? You must have the technical expertise to oversee that.
Mr. Jomatu, according to you, Neb, the issue might not be practical subjects alone, but there's also the issue of the proficiency in the English language.
Yes.
Science students can't comprehend English well enough to understand the questions that have been set for them. Actually, there's some practicals whereby you'll have to observe and write some notes on the paper.
Yes.
So according to you, Neb, they observed that the students had a problem observing what was in the practicals and trying to transfer that. Yes, reporting it was a major problem. So are we concentrating on sciences and leaving out English, which is a good way of understanding the questions that are being set?
Thank you very much. When we are talking about emphasis in sciences, we don't mean we should ignore the arts. Neither do we say we should ignore the languages nor the religious studies.
That should be the way of doing things, but right about now, we've abandoned English when it comes to sciences. That's why students can't comprehend the questions.
The language teachers could best answer that, why they are not drilling our students properly and to comprehend the language.
Mr. Odongo.
But then also, my observations over the years have shown that a child that leaves primary with a poor background of English language will have the same challenges until they exit the secondary section. So a child that leaves primary section with very good understanding of English will always improve it faster and will grasp the concepts.
Actually, to add on what he has said, language is learned at primary level. You just have small addition in the secondary level. So a child that comes to secondary without a proper language will even leave secondary, even will leave university, and even go in the field, in the employment field, with that problem in the language.
Mr. Dongo,
Yes.
let's concentrate on the recently released Uganda Certificate of Education exams. Girls failed horribly.
Yes.
Most of them failed to get a pass 8. What is leading to this, and why are we still keeping these sciences compulsory in the O-level section, knowing very well that our students are failing, and few of these females, by the way, will be taking on sciences at the secondary level, UACE. So why are we still having these subjects compulsory, yet students are failing them? Should we make them optional?
It's not a good idea to make sciences optional right from senior 1. Because
Let's first talk about why girls are failing.
Why girls are failing, the combination of factors, but one of them is the attitude. The other one is the environment in which the girls study. In schools that are mixed, usually boys are more aggressive than girls. And if the teachers are not very careful enough to give girls chance to create an environment that encourages the participation of everybody.
So how best can we create that environment?
Of course, in most cases, the way you select people to participate in the activities of the class, the way you appreciate them also determines whether people will have the interest or they will withdraw. Then the other one is the society. Sometimes the society. We have society in some places that still believes that girls are not good enough for sciences. So the girls grow hearing such words. Girls grow without models, that role models from whom to copy. So it kills their ability, it kills the interest to take on sciences. And in the long run, we end up with fewer girls taking on sciences, but also performing poorly. But then also, let's not forget, I think in the longer run, government needs to take deliberate steps to promote, one, girls taking on sciences, but also two, to ensure that teachers are available in up-country schools by forcing, because now every sub-county in the country at least has a secondary school. There are a few that still do not have, but the majority. Out of the schools that make up a particular district, let's have 1 or 2 schools forced to take sciences, both for O and A-levels, such that they produce people who will go and take courses in that particular field of sciences. Chances are high that people who originate from a particular region will always want to work in their region, or will stay when posted there, than posting somebody from Rukunjiri to Botaleja, and then they can't make it, they run away.
Mr. Matua.
Yes, I would like to respond on this very important issue. Actually, why are our girls failing sciences? Or why are we seeing few girls going for sciences? There's the issue of gender bias. This is a historical issue. Previously, women were not allowed to go to school. Even when they were allowed, there was that inferiority complex whereby you would have more male teachers vis-a-vis the female teacher. So there is no role model at school level to inspire this girl to aspire for sciences. Now, I'm recommending that the government must introduce a policy whereby in every department of sciences, there must be a female teacher. In the biology department, there must be female teachers. In the chemistry department, in physics, in mathematics. Because our girls must see that they are likes who are doing these sciences. Then too, we have the environmental aspect. What is the society perception in terms of it? What do the parents tell their children? Their parents who tell their children, see, sciences are for boys. If you fail the sciences, why do you go and create more failures by passing on the message that it is only for boys? Now, I want to rule out this allegation that sciences are not for girls. My brother, Mr. Romeo Busiku, if you go to girls' schools, purely girls' schools, for example, Mount St. Mary's, SS Namagunga,
and they performed
the
very
girls
well.
are passing.
They got 19 D1.
Yes, in Maryhill, the girls are passing. In St. Joseph, St. Xavier girls, the girls are passing.
They passed.
So, what is the evidence for that allegation to be made? You know, this is a compounding allegation, and it has even effect on the psychology, the mental aspect of the society. When we are speaking this thing in the media like this, we must be very careful. Actually, we must say, why our girls are failing in the mixed schools?
Okay, enough,
well
Mr. Matua, enough of the problems
schools.
plaguing science teachers and the students. Let's talk about the recommendations. A minute for you and a minute for Mr. Odongo. Mr. Odongo, let me start with you. What are some of your recommendations to mitigate this problem?
I would recommend that, first of all, government recruits more teachers. Government pays attention to motivating teachers. Government should also partner with initiatives brought out by teachers among themselves to sort the issues of performance and welfare issues. Like I said, the biology educators are all over the country. We have groupings at regional levels. We are working on capacity building, continuous capacity building, but also on welfare. In the small groupings, wherever people are, come together, identify a viable economic activity that they can engage in, and then over the weekends meet, resolve ways of running small businesses.
Welfare and capacity building.
Yes.
Mr. Job Matua, recommendations.
Yes, thank you very much. One, I recommend that the government recruits the minimum number of science teachers. We have less than 13,000 science teachers, including deputies and head teachers. That is too low. Two, I recommend that the government takes on the issue of motivation of science teachers serious. Can you imagine, in all the professions in science discipline, it is science teaching which is the least paid, yet it is the driver of the rest. Now, how do you suffocate the roots when actually you are rewarding the other flowers up there?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Matua, the Secretary General, Uganda National Science Teachers Union. Thank you very much for having made the time. Mr. Dongo, too, the president of the biology educators right there. So we've been having this conversation centered on the issue of science subjects being failed at UCE, not only at UCE, but also UACE. Some of the recommendations some experts have been fronting to be actually instituted would be the use of technology during practical studies so that students can understand verifiably what they are being taught. This is Morning at NTV. Let's take another short breather. We'll be right back with another conversation. Don't